Welcome to a very special episode of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. This weekend sees the 5th round of the Adobe Women's FA Cup, and that includes Southampton taking on Manchester United. So we headed down to Southampton's training ground to have a chat with Marieanne Spacey-Cale to see how her team is getting on. Here's what she had to say. Marieanne, thank you very much for joining us today. We've just had a bit of a tour of your lovely facility down here. How's training gone? What was it like today?
Yeah, training was good today. I think, with this group of players, whatever you put on, they'll do their best to get the results that you want and to problem solve within the sessions as well. So I think today's been a really good on-pitch and off-pitch exercise with the analysis this morning and then bringing that out onto the pitch this afternoon. So really pleased with today's session.
We are going to get on to your big game on Sunday and the league as well, but just a little bit about you and your kind of journey into coaching, making that transition into coaching. What was that like for you?
It was pretty horrendous when I went from player to coach. One day I was playing, the next day I was coaching, and as much as I thought I'd be ready for it, I wasn't. And it took me a while to really understand what coaching really meant, because it's not just about the game of football, it's like everything that goes with it, it's the detail of everything. So the first year I was coaching as in a team, it was just, oh my God, what have I done? And then you slowly start to understand, but even in those times you have wobbles, and there's times even, this season, the last couple of weeks, where you kind of still have to wobble your own head a little bit and go, do you know what, you're doing okay? Everyone around you is doing okay. And sometimes you can just take, small setbacks and like internalise them too much. And that's where you've got to think differently and just be, that happens, and you just got to get up and move on again and keep the positivity and keep believing in what we're trying to do.
I don't know if you saw Emma Hayes spoke there recently about there not being enough female coaches and the pathways are quite tricky, and I spoke to a player in the championship who's also looking to get into coaching and the kind of barriers she's come up against. Did you find any of that at all, or do you find that that's changed over the time?
I think it's quite upsetting that in 2024 we're still talking about barriers for women to get into coaching, for women to get into doing what they want to be able to achieve or what they want to do. So it's upsetting that that's still happening and we're still having to talk about that. And I think for the generation of players now that are coming to the end of their football careers, we should by now have something in place for them. And I know there's player to coach opportunities, but they're quite small. There's, you've got a lot of players. Where do all those players go for their opportunities? And I suppose Emma was costing out how much it costs to go into coach ed, to get your badges. There's so much experience that we could lose because they don't see the opportunity to gain their badges and then get the opportunities to coach. So it's frustrating that we're still talking about that in 2024 when the women's game has grown so much. There's so many opportunities in the pathway and at the senior level. And you just go, why are we still talking about it? Let's invest in it and do something about it. And, our partners, Starling, have done a great Coaches of Tomorrow scheme and, getting women into their, even if it's their level 1 or their first step into coaching, there's the bite. Now they've got to be able to know that there's a pathway for them in coaching as well as players having a pathway to get to the top. Coaches should have the same. Yeah, absolutely. As someone who's played and now coaching, do you recognise certain players that maybe you think actually they could go on and become a really good coach? You can't outwardly, like the ones that are always talking on the pitch and helping and supporting, but coaching isn't always about being the loudest one. It's about what you see, your analysis of the game, and then how you get your messages across, which I guess going back to my transition, I thought it was you had to have knowledge of the game and be able to pass that knowledge on, but you have to pass it on in a very different way from a player to a player than from a coach to a player. So I think you can certainly identify players now that you think they understand the game, they know a little bit about, but then it's the whole thing that you need to educate them on, and not just what they're saying and what they're doing on the pitch. What do you think the main
difference is between, say, an international setup versus a club setup?
It's definitely the day-to-day. You know, every day you're on the pitch and you're trying to be fresh, and you're trying to, you know, not just in yourself and with the players, but you're trying to be fresh with your ideas and not go too random that it's like got nothing to do with how you want to play and your philosophy. So staying fresh, staying on top of the trends of the game, but also making sure that you're still involved. You're still very, very influenced by your own philosophy on how you want to play. So yeah, every day it's like you're bringing the energy and bringing personality, and no matter how you might be feeling, you've still got to step through that door. And like today, I've just got to be that. I'm going to get home later. Maybe then I'll just be quiet and just have a little reflect on. You did all right today because you were absolutely knackered, but maybe the players didn't see it, or maybe the staff didn't see it.
What would you say your style of coaching is, or if we ask the players what you're like, how do you think they describe you? Would it be the same or different?
It's hard, isn't it? Because I'm more of a go in and have a chat with a player rather than sort of like bawling out or anything like that. I'm certainly not. I can, if I need to call something out, I will call it out, but I don't believe in doing it all the time because it just loses its essence. But I think it's like I care about the players, I care about the staff, but there's also this demand inside of, you know, we've got to learn, we've got to be better every day, and that's staff and players. And if we keep along that lines, as a coach, I'm quite happy. What
is your philosophy? Touched on it there, but in terms of your style, how you want to play.
I've always believed in dominate the ball, dominate the opponent, and everything that fills in under there. Because as a player, you kind of get your ideas from when you played, and I loved having the ball. I wanted the team to be able to, you know, the team around me being good on the ball, so the passing was quality, the movement was quality, you know, and so I always think if you dominate the ball and dominate the opposition, then you've got quite a good chance.
And obviously everything else around coaching, you've got, you know, player-to-player management, you've got different types of personalities to manage, analysis, all of that kind of stuff. What are the most important areas, do you feel, of coaching?
I think if you said what's the most pleasing, it probably comes across as both. It's important that you help your players and your staff to develop and get better. So that to me is really important. So no matter what you're doing on the pitch, if your intent is you want your players to be better, you want the staff to be better, and managing, like you said, all those personalities and managing what each player needs to get better. You know, there's touch points throughout the week where you'll have a conversation with one, and then it might be another few days before you have a conversation with another player, but and also with staff. So I think that's the important bit, is that, you know, we go back to you care about what you're doing, you care about the people that you're doing it with, and you're trying to help them get better.
So then, conversely, what's the trickiest part?
Selection.
Yeah.
I think every coach would say exactly the same, and so you've got to have those relationships to be able to deliver the news that they might not want to hear, but also keep them understanding what their value is, because you can only put 11 on the pitch, but the ones that come off the bench to go onto the pitch are vitally important. The ones that are the supporters, they are vitally important, because when you're setting up sessions, you need one team to play as you, one team to play as the opposition, and if players are not feeling the love because they're not being selected, then it doesn't help your session. So I think a lot of players, a lot of coaches will probably say the same thing.
And I guess it's hard, coaches often talk about players giving them a headache when it comes to selection, but it must mean you're doing the right thing if it's so hard to select a squad.
Absolutely, and give credit to players, because if they were all just didn't care, didn't want to do it, you wouldn't have that headache, because you'd only select the ones that wanted to. So the players giving you a headache, and then chatting through with the staff, because it's important, although you make the decision, for me everybody has to have an input, because there'll be things that you might miss during the day in training or in the gym sessions or in the analysis sessions. So there's a whole disciplinary team that will go, have you thought about this, because this was what was happening in this situation, or maybe you didn't see this bit on the pitch because you were concentrating there. we have a lot of like selection discussions, but ultimately, yeah, it's me that makes that decision.
That must have been quite a learning curve, I guess, as well. Like, you look at the staff you have around you now, probably wasn't like that when you started, and you have to learn then to, I guess, give up some of the control in those areas as well.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I'm trying to be better at is delegating, because you can't do everything. And I think our staff, we've got a really good group of staff, and we haven't got as big a staff as what other clubs might, some of the other clubs might have. And I quite like that, because it feels more of a family. If you've got more than, if you've got lots and lots and lots of staff, all of a sudden you can't get round to everybody in a day or in a couple of days. And you've also got a lot of different noise coming on. So I think we've got a really good size of group. And we've got definitely people that are passionate about the areas that they work in, and they want to learn about the areas that they're not in, every day. So, I can't fault the staff. They're absolutely superb, and, all they want to do is, get the players better, help them to develop, and help each other to develop.
I'm sure there have been a lot of memorable moments over your coaching career. Can you single out one?
I think you go back to the World Cup in 2015, because it was just an amazing tournament, and the bronze medal, but it was so near yet so far with like what happened there. But just to go into that and just remembering how the group just grew throughout that tournament. I think for us here at Southampton, it was definitely the playoff final. It was winning the league at St Mary's against Portsmouth with a really good crowd there, and then going into the playoff and against good Wolves side. But we always believed in ourselves, and that's one of the things you want to instill as well as a coach, is that belief. And I think on that day when we went 1-0 up, and then we were under the cosh a little bit, but we always believed that we would win that game. And so that's pleasing from, A, it was a playoff getting us into the Championship, but B, the work that you do away from the pitch for the belief and the responsibility and the value of each other on the pitch. They absolutely believed in each other that we would get the result.
I think we've probably talked to you a couple of times in your time at Southampton about the project here and the journey, and how do you feel that journey is going in terms of where you are versus where you want to be?
We always said, like, the 5-year plan when we came in was to be in the Championship, and now we've kind of gone, right, what's the next bit of the plan? So, we speak regularly with the board, with the owners. We're really, they're really invested. They're, always saying how integral the women's programme is in the club, and the rewards of getting into the WSL, not just on the pitch, off the pitch, are fantastic now. So, from our perspective, we're driving towards, we want to get into the WSL, especially with the new company coming in, with the changes that's going to bring. It's an exciting time to be in women's football, Championship and WSL, but also below, because I think what happens there is they get left behind a little bit. And I think what's important is we don't neglect the importance of the game is for everybody, and the top tiers will always be the ones that commercially will always strive, or will always be the ones that everybody wants to invest in. But you don't get those players in those top tiers unless there's a pathway below. So I think for me it's, we have to make sure that we're investing in our pathway, that we're pushing and driving for the aspiration of being in the WSL or whatever it's going to be called next, and ensuring that the club and the investment and the resource, we're all on the same page.
In terms of balancing that expectation, that ambition versus perhaps reality, I think we saw with Brighton recently the sacking of Mel Phillips because they didn't feel that for the investment that they were getting what they wanted out of it. Is that a difficult thing to do as a coach, or do you feel like you're all kind of on the same page here?
I think we're all on the same page here, but as the game grows, that the demands and the expectations will change, and I think what we've got to do is make sure that we're ready for that. We're ready for that, because it will come in, that you've seen already with, like you said, with Mel, and everyone was shocked by that, but that's possibly the reality that we've got to be ready for, and it could happen more and more. think the most important thing is that, like I said, we're ready for that, and there's support systems around, and because it's not been known so much in the women's game. So what is the support for those coaches that happens? You know, you've certainly got the LMA around you and different, but it's not been known in the women's game. So where do people turn to if they're not sure? And I think that's got to be something that we've got to look at, because losing your job, you know, you're not going to earn enough money to go, yeah, I'm okay, I'll get this £1 million payoff in this game. So, you know, it's losing your job is like people in the street losing their jobs. What am I going to do next? There's that fear. So making sure that we've got that support in place. You know, it might not be financial support, but it's just somewhere to turn to let off a bit of steam that isn't going to impact any future opportunities.
Yeah, because we talk a lot about player welfare, don't we? But sometimes I think we forget about, you know, coaches and staffing, and they're people too, and there's not a lot of money in the game in terms of, you know, people uprooting themselves and moving to a new club, and so that's an important area as well.
Absolutely, because if you know, we all as coaches, we put the player in the middle. Who's putting the coach in the middle? And there's a lot of coaches that will be going, you know, if results don't go my way, the expectation now is this. Where do I turn? Who helps me? And
you touched on there, you know, young players coming through, and that's something I think you pride yourselves on here. There's a lot of young players coming through in the senior team now on this journey with you. How key has that been?
Oh, it's been amazing. You look at, like, Meg Collette playing in the first team at 16, Lucia Kendall playing in the first team at 16, and, you know, that gap of senior football for our English players, our English internationals. You know, what's great for us is because we've come through the tiers, and because we've played tier 5, tier 4, tier 3 into the championship, they've grown with us, and they've had that playing time of playing against women, not just age group football. And I think that shows now that we're still, and we talk it all the time, we're still quite naive at times and quite innocent in how we play, but there's also a maturity of our 16, 17, 18-year-olds that is beyond their years because they've had that experience. So, you know, I think it's like what we do here is fantastic for those players. And, you know, little Kayla came on for 10 minutes against, and Izzy came on against Tottenham in the Conti Cup. So again, we want to show the players that want to invest in being in football that there's a pathway here, and it doesn't matter what your age is. If you are good enough, we'll give you that chance.
Let's talk about your season, because I know we touched on it there, pitch side, and how wild this championship season is. 5 teams still in it with about 7 games to go.
Yeah.
Have you experienced anything like it before?
It's crazy, but I think that just shows the growth of the game. And I think what it does show is the expansion is it needs to happen, because clubs are investing. You look at the teams that are at the top end of the championship, even at the bottom end of the championship, at the top end, they're all clubs that want to invest, and they all want to be in the Super League because of the rewards that come with it. So every team is battling for every point to be able to step up and kind of reward the resource that's gone in before to build on the resource that can come. So I think that does play a part in the top of the in the battle at the moment, because it is wild. And you know, we were really disappointed on Sunday with the result. And when you walk in the dressing room, it's like, but then you look at the other scores, and it kind of gives you a lift again, because it's not out of your hands. And there's 5 teams doing exactly the same thing. So I think it's just building that momentum, building the consistency, and accepting that the next 7 games there's going to be pressure. There's going to be pressure.
It's just does it feel like it's just a case of whoever nails that consistency first is probably going to...
Yeah, because it's just been up and down, isn't it? So anyone that puts a run, although Birmingham put a run together and they're still, you know, they put a run of wins and undefeated, and Charlton have done the same. I think now it's like this is the time for that momentum, and this is the time for those unbeaten runs.
Well, you have a cup game in between all of that to deal with. I know you've had some good moments, particularly in the cup, in the FA Cup before, but you're playing Manchester United at home at the weekend. How much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, you always look forward to challenging. You want the players to challenge themselves against some of the best players, and you want the opportunity to showcase what you're trying to do here. So again, if you look at what we just said about expanding the leagues and showcasing that there is, the gap isn't as big as people think it is. And it's just, for me, it's going to be an enjoyable game. We've just got to go out with no fear. Just go and enjoy playing football, because like we said, the pressure of the next 7 games will be far greater than the pressure of the game on Sunday. And I think for us to just have a weekend where, of course, we want to win. It would be silly of me. The players don't go on the pitch unless they want to win. But also understanding that you can enjoy the game as well and not just feel pressure that you've got to win. We want to win. We want to be able to enjoy the game, and we want to be able to challenge ourselves against one of the top teams in the WSL.
Is that kind of the magic of the FA Cup as well, is pulling a top team in the WSL? Does it give the girls that bit of excitement to test themselves?
Yeah, I think they were all, because I think there was 4 balls left, wasn't it? And Man United and Chelsea were in there, so I think it was, you get one of them, then it's an opportunity for us, and that's how you got to look at it. And like I said, the opportunity to try things, the opportunity to give the girls a different experience, because a one-off game again, and like I said, the opportunity just to enjoy. And we'll have a packed crowd at Eastleigh. It's nice that it's a lovely little stadium, and it'll be packed. And we always talk about our supporters. They travel across the land for us. And Man United have got noisy supporters. We've just got to be noisier.
But we've seen it this season in County Cup. You've had big crowds for WSL teams, and you've performed well. So how important I know it sounds cliche, but that 12th player on the pitch for you?
Absolutely, because it does help the players, and our crowd and the support that they give us is, the players all talk about it in the dressing room, like you heard them, and the next day they'll be chatting, and all the interviews afterwards are about the 12th person and the supporters that we've got. And I think we drive them as well. They drive us and we drive them. So if we can perform and play some really good football, the noise level will go up as well. So, it's like working hand in hand together with the people that come and support us every week.
Final question: Can you cause the upset?
I think there's every opportunity for any club to cause an upset. The more you play for enjoyment, the more relaxed you are. The more relaxed you are, the more you can perform. So I think there's a lot of teams in the next round of the cup that can cause an upset, because, like I said, the gap's getting closer, isn't it? So I think we have to accept that they're a really good side and absolutely be respectful of that. But we're a good side, and we've got a chance. Absolutely.
Well, you're very relaxed, which is good. So I feel like that's important going into a game like that. Thank you so much for finding time to talk to us. Obviously a very busy run-in at the end of the season. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the game. So wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much, and always welcome.
Thank you.